It's such a empowering day for little girls up to women my age and beyond, from grassroots programs to professional. So we're really going to make this a discussion and not just hard-on interview questions. So we'll start off by just introducing each of ourselves and kind of our career paths, because they're all different and they vary, but all valid because all important roles in the sports industry. So we are going to kick it off with Coach Brandy first, and she's going to take us a little bit through her history and how she got to where she is today.
Hi, everyone. My name is Brandy Poole. I'm one of the assistant coaches with the Connecticut Sun, entering my 4th season this year that we have upcoming. A little bit about me. I born and raised in Tennessee and grew up playing a ton of sports, playing basketball, obviously, softball, ran cross country, went to college to play basketball. And coaching wasn't necessarily on my radar at that time. When I was in college, I was a math major. I was pre-med. I was on this course of going to medical school and thought that's where my life was going to take me. And after about 6 months after graduation, I missed basketball. I missed the season. I missed the camaraderie. And long story short, I've been coaching now for 20 years at different levels, 18 at the Division I level. For those of you that don't know, I actually got my start in coaching a long time ago with Coach Miller, who I currently work for now with the Sun. And we've had a good long working relationship, and I'm super grateful for him. But yeah, so I am so thankful to be where I am. I'm so thankful to be here with you guys tonight talking about National Girls and Women in Sports Day. And I hope that you guys enjoy this panel tonight.
Jenna, I'll let you take it away.
Yeah. Hey everyone, my name is Jenna Contreras. I am a producer at ESPN, mainly focusing on feature producing. So that is kind of those in-depth stories that are usually on pregame shows that kind of teach you a little bit more about an athlete, what makes them work, how did they get, battle over adversity or their connections with a fan. Recently got into the documentary world, which has been very exciting, of just, really submersing ourselves with athletes and giving them a bigger platform to really show what their lives are day in and day out through their lenses. So I am born and raised in Southern California. I attended Cal State Northridge. The dream originally was broadcast journalism, to be on camera. I took a position in Casper, Wyoming, and Harlingen, Texas, but then there was a job fair at school and ESPN was there, and sports was always what I wanted to do. And I went up to the table and thought I made a complete fool of myself because I just was so excited that ESPN was here and that was the Mecca. And oh my gosh, could I really start there? And like that'd be my first big job out of school. And so I applied, and a month later, I got the opportunity to move 3,000 miles away, not know anybody, but start at the Mecca of sports. Sports for me and my family, that was always a way for us to bond. We would always go to Angel games. There's a joke, my first game, I was 2 weeks old. That was a spring training game, which questionable parenting if they're taking a newborn, but it was kind of our thing of what we've always done. Growing up, it was cheerleading, volleyball, and track. And with track, it was pole vaulting and sprinting. But, sports has always just been a way for, I think, a way to unite everybody regardless of your background, or regardless of the language that you speak. There's a passion that's on the court, on the field, wherever you're at, that kind of just transcends everything for people. And it's just a beautiful way to connect with others. And I enjoy talking with people. So sports is kind of the place where I can be to, amplify people's stories, but also get the opportunity to meet people that I never would have in any other way.
Thank you, Jenna. Kayla, you're up.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kayla McGill, and I'm a dancer. I'm a professional dancer. I grew up in Connecticut, and I went to different dance schools as I was going through my primary schooling. And in high school, I actually attended a performing arts high school. And that's where I really decided that I wanted my career to be in the arts and performance. I was able to train in high school and eventually went to college for dance as well. I do have my bachelor's degree in dance performance, which is very exciting, from the University of the Arts in Philadelphia. I just graduated about 2 years ago now. The last graduation before everything kind of went a bit different. Yeah, so it feels like it was so long ago, but not too long ago. And so what I'm doing now is I'm still dancing. I do dance at a studio where I train, as well as dance with different dance companies and do music videos here and there. But what I do in my day job is I'm an advisor. So I look over transfer credits and I set students up to see how their schedule would look for their program of interest. And I really much enjoy it. I've learned I'm very much a people person. Although my main focus career is in dance and performance, and that's where my passion is, what I've learned in my day job is actually what connects us all is that universal love of transcendence, as Jenna was saying. Yeah, so with dance, you don't often have to speak. It's very much a physical art form, but the performance aspect and the connecting with others is really what I'm passionate about. I think it's so great to have a day like today where we get to celebrate women, especially in this field that we all love of sports, performance, entertainment, and especially being together. So I'm excited to be here.
That was so well said. I will go last. My name's Robin Brown, and I serve as our marketing specialist and team reporter. So how did I get here? I, like Jenna, am from Southern California. So living in Connecticut in the snow is a big change and a tough adjustment if you never grow up in that kind of weather. But I grew up playing sports my entire life, the basketballs and volleyballs and softballs, and having my mom serve as the carpool lady, you know, driving all of her kids around and whatnot. And so when I went to college, I was studying communications and also sport business, but it's hard when you're in college and you're 21 and they say, like, what do you want to do for the rest of your life? And I knew I loved to speak and communicate, and I knew I loved sports, but I didn't know how to turn that into a career. So I decided to go and pursue a master's at Quinnipiac University in Connecticut, which is what brought me here. So I studied sports journalism, and I went through 6 months of applying for an interview with the Washington Mystics, actually in the WNBA. And after 6 months, that never came to fruition, but they say when one door closes, another one opens. And so I was able to have a phone call with someone within Connecticut's organization, and I got an internship. They had never had a sideline reporter as an internship, and she took a chance on me. I remember she saying I was very green, and I didn't know what that meant, but all it took was, one opportunity just for someone to open that door and for you to take advantage of that. And I eventually was able to turn that internship into this professional career that I feel very privileged to be in this role and to be creating content, for a women's professional league, and also serve as this team reporter, which no other team in the WNBA has. So it's a really unique position that I take a lot of pride in, that I hope will continue to grow, and that all 12 teams will eventually, have a team reporter that is telling these stories like Jenna gets to do on a daily basis about how amazing these female athletes are. So now that introduces our panelists, I'm going to kick it off with this first question to all of you that we can all chime in on, and just why you think that it's important to have women either participating in, working, or playing sports growing up.
I'll begin. Yeah, I think in my personal experience, in my young age, I was very much attracted to everything. I feel like I could bloom wherever I was planted. So doing the schoolyard volleyball, kickball games after school was a way to channel so much energy and various emotions and stimuli that you're getting during the day. And you're able to find passion in it. You're able to find purpose in it. And I think especially as a young girl, having that groundedness, it gives you a good foundation.
I agree. And I think it's important that representation matters, right? We all know this. And sports for so many young girls, and for me growing up, I know I was like a very unconfident child, and just wanted to kind of fade into the background. And for me, sports gave me leadership skills, it gave me confidence. And so many of these kids today need that. Discipline, like how to be a good teammate, how to work in groups of people, which we all have to do on a daily basis in our real jobs. And I think a big thing is it teaches people how to deal with adversity, because we all know, like some people handle adversity well and some don't. And I think sports is the center of so many critical life skills for these young children and young women, especially.
Right. The life skills that you can pick up on a field, in a court, are some things that you would have never expected that you get from sports. And I think that's a beautiful thing, because, even thinking back of, what I was like in elementary school, it was always, you wanted to be the first one to get picked on kickball or whatever sport you were playing, but it was a healthy competition. And it's good to know, like to your point of, you're not always going to win, but it's also something that can give you a little bit of fire in you to work towards something. And then taking that of just something that can be something that is so playful, but knowing that you want to excel in life, it's going to take you working on it. And then, if you put in the time with anything with the sport, you put in time with anything of yourself in a professional way, you're going to get to where you want to be. And I think it's just a way to learn that lesson without you realizing that you're learning that lesson.
Brandy, for a day like today that's so special and celebrating women's involvement, in sports, what does something like that mean to you?
For me, it's all about the visibility. What you do, what Jenna does, telling these women's stories. I don't think that's recognized enough. And so I just think, like I said on our little video that we put out earlier with the Connecticut Sun, I think women and girls in sports should be celebrated every day. But to have one day specifically for women in sports, I think is incredible. To just keep fighting to put women's sports on TV, to recognize the trailblazers and all the women that came before us who have paved this path. I was lucky enough to work down at Texas Tech University for 5 years and coach, and under a program that used to be run by Marcia Sharp, who was a legend in our game. And just to hear her stories of how she paved the path for women in my profession now, and what little resources they had. And so to remember people like her and Pat Head Summit and all these women that started with nothing before Title IX, that, were the coach, the bus driver, did their laundry, the manager, everything, to what we have now. We've come a long way, but we still have so much further to go. And that all starts with the visibility.
Kayla, when I was listening to Brandy talk right now, she was talking about the involvement and the inclusion, of women who were before her and then coming after her. But I'm someone unfamiliar with how the dance industry is structured like that. So how are you guys advancing that involvement, inclusion of, young girls and young boys who are dancing?
It's a wonderful question. One movie comes to mind. I don't know if it's still on Netflix, but it's called First Position. And the story is specifically centering ballerinas, both male and female. And even though ballet is typically a more forefront idea of what a dance style is, it just got into the nitty-gritty of the lifestyle. And one of the dancers looked like me, brown skin, as dark as me. And to see someone see themselves in that way, I could see myself having the same strength that I see her embody. And in that same token, there's a book about brown boys dancing, and a group of them all together. And although I don't have any young boys who I know dance personally in my life, I can just imagine the males who I went to college with, the journey it must have took for them to get where they were. Mm-hmm. I think to find the courage to believe in yourself it absolutely can be supplemented greatly by having recognition, like you said, Brandy, and having a day like today where it is annual, where once a year we can stop and look in the mirror and look in front and behind us and to see who was there and who are we and who can we be.
I think the visibility is a big thing in my profession too, because you've always, when you have looked at networks, you usually see a group of men, right, sitting around a table talking about sports. But you see that there was a woman who had your same color skin, you know? So when I see Maria Taylor or, you know, the Doris Burks of the world, women commentating about sports, because I see it, I believe like, okay, if she can do it, I can do it too. But it's that visibility factor that I think is such an understatement, but so important and significant, because it may seem small, but just the one vision, I don't even know what she's saying at the time, but just me seeing her on a television screen is so important. So I just totally connect with exactly what you said right there. I guess I'll pop over to Jenna for a second and ask you, because I know all of us have such we're all in the sports industry, but in different ways. And so for you, within production on that side of things and that version of storytelling, I'm going to break this into two parts, but I just want to start with, have you started to see a change in that industry and the women who are in those roles over the last 5 years?
Yeah, I would say that there is a change. And I think it is because, I don't know, it feels like there's a reckoning of like, it's our time and people are starting to pay attention to women. And it's not only on the court, it's off the court, it's listening and being engaged, and know that, you know, women in sports are multifaceted and they have a lot of experience and qualities that they can bring to a table just because of our unique background of being females. You know, one thing I've learned is to use me being a female, and usually one of the only females at a table full of men, as a strength, because I'm looking at something completely different than what they're used to looking at it. And my unique background and my unique experience can then bring something and elevate the conversation of whatever we're discussing. So, you know, slowly we're starting to see more women on covering sports, or, you know, even more WNBA games finally on ESPN within the short amount of time. I think that there has been a change, and it's been a change for the better. And it's just something that I think that continues to grow. I think it's a little bit of, you know, women being able to look around and seeing that they're not the only ones anymore. Of, you know, one of my mentors always told me, wherever you're going, don't forget to reach back, because, you know, I wouldn't have been here without somebody taking a chance on me. And I remember how that felt, looking for that one mentor or that one person to could sponsor my career and, you know, give me that chance to know that I may fail in what this opportunity is, but the failure, I will be able to learn from it and grow from it. And, you know, it takes somebody special to see that in someone and not being afraid to take that chance on you, because it is a risk, but it's a risk that we all should take. And I think that, you know, more women are feeling more comfortable doing that, and, you know, finding our voice and using it and not being afraid to use it, and knowing what we bring to the table and knowing that what we can contribute, it can make everything better, because, you know, we account for at least half the fans and majority of sports. So there's a reason why we should have an opinion when it comes to these things.
You talked about that table and being the only female who's often sitting there. But if you have to think down the line in 5-10 years, do you have a hope for what you hope that table encompasses in the future?
Oh my goodness, yes. I hope it looks like this round table right now, this virtual round table, you know. Yeah, I think we can get there. You know, I'm probably, if I'm being very candid, it's probably 10 years down the road versus, you know, right now. But I think that there is a movement and there is some pressure with just what's going on in the state of the world, that things weren't working before the way that they were. And there needs to be a shakeup in certain places of the decision makers and of, you know, who is controlling the content from, you know, production side. And so I think that diversity is going to be finally represented, I guess, or, you know, a growth in that is finally going to happen, which is long overdue and is going to be beautiful.
Yeah. I'm going to pose this question to each of you, and I'll go with Brandy first on in the coaching industry specifically, on what you may think one of the biggest challenges are for you in that specific role.
Not necessarily me specifically, but I've thought a lot about this and with just my women friends in the coaching profession. I personally do not have children, but I know one of the biggest challenges for women in the coaching profession has been balancing having a family and their job. Because it's 24 hours a day. And I'm lucky that I have a partner that supports me and like is there for me, whether I'm working 24 hours a day or, have the day off, or if I'm in a bubble for 3 straight months. But it's a real challenge. And honestly, it's why a lot of women have left the coaching profession, is because they felt like they had to choose between having a family and their job because of the time commitment. And I hate to see that, having to choose between two things that you love. But I do think we're seeing more and more women realize they can do it all. It helps to have a good support system. But I think on the coaching side of things, that's a big challenge of why some females that were excellent coaches have left our profession.
Mm-hmm. Kayla, in the dance industry, would you say that there's a specific challenge that either you have faced personally or that faces dancers who are, in the professional ranks at this point?
I think especially in light of COVID, but the overall advancing of technology, mm-hmm. dance begins to feel a bit disconnected in a way. Typically, unless you're doing a music video or a movie, you're doing live performance, you're used to being in a theater with other people and receiving that live feedback when you're in the same space. Mm-hmm. But today it feels as though, because everything is so instantaneous and you can kind of swipe away and you don't really get a second look, I think particularly with women, what we think needs to be pushed to the forefront isn't as much our artistry, but it becomes what we think other people want to see. Mm-hmm. I think particularly as a woman, for myself, I tend to people please and I want to help, I want to give. And when you're disconnected in a way from your target audience or who you want to connect to, for me, I found challenges with maintaining the authenticity, giving who I am, not just who I want to be perceived by.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Kayla, that's a good point with how technology is almost a blessing and a curse in some ways. Even from like the production side, like it's amazing that we're able to connect here virtually because we are not able to get together. But then, it's hard in the production standpoint to try to connect to individuals through a screen and, have that bond when you're discussing difficult topics that, you want that human connection, that eye contact, and that like I feel you in your soul as you're bearing it through. And it's hard to do that through a screen, or it's hard to do it with a mask on because you don't realize how expressive you are and how much of the body language goes into what you're saying. And then you just you're using your eyes so much to try to connect with someone and hoping that you don't look like you're crazy if you're just like, I hear you and I see you. It's a challenge right now of having us to kind of have to become more creative with how we're able to connect to people, because as humans, we thrive on connection. We all do that. That's what all of our memories and why we are drawn to sports. We all love this bonding and coming together. So it's difficult when we are all in our own rooms right now, but that's also great that we can still do this at the same time.
Yeah, agreed.
Brandy, what do you think that are some of the ways people either in the coaching industry, I don't know if this is through mentorship or, just working for the Sun organization, that you specifically feel like you're able to make a difference in young girls or women's lives?
Yeah, and I like what Kayla had said earlier about reaching back And yeah, same thing. Like I call it paying it forward. So many people have helped me in my life and giving me opportunities. I've spoken to 2 young girls just this week about how I got into the profession and what they can do, and you know, decisions in college and things like that. So, you know, and I didn't always have that growing up. When I was growing up, I didn't have the WNBA to look up to, and to see these incredible women, or to see all the different varieties of, you know, women in sports that there are. So I think just being with the Sun, I love, what I miss most about this off season is not being able to go out in person to clinics and connect with these young women and girls in basketball, and, you know, talk to them and play basketball with them and do what they love, and teach them. I really truly miss that. But that's a way for me to continue to pay it forward, and give any sort of little bit of advice, or, you know, tell my story to them to help them move forward and know that it's out there for them.
I want to, staying on this topic, Kayla, I'm just curious, in terms of teaching dance, you know, to younger generations, what, although you talk about it's, you know, giving it back to them, what does that, you know, give to you in return, in your heart, knowing that you're changing lives of a younger generation coming up?
It just brings it all full circle.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's so sweet to go back to that age. I think back to when I was in school in Philadelphia. I was teaching at a dance studio, and mostly there were little girls between the ages of about 4 to 7. And it was a lot of little girls. So, you know, there's a lot of energy there. But it's the passion. It's the fact that they wake up so early and they just want to wear a tutu with nice music and dance with their best friend, who's their dance teacher, Miss Kayla. Like, and they're always so happy to see you. But it's the full circle moment where I was that little girl, and I had a Miss Lori who I was so happy to see every week, you know, and it makes me feel like, in a way, hopefully I can empower them to, in whatever field they enjoy, but particularly in entertainment and sports, if they can give back and feel that when they're younger, it just does it for you.
Talking about that, you know, teaching and empowerment, Jenna, was there someone for you growing up that, you know, guided you into the position or the path that you are in today?
You know, I think it was just from a young age, my mom always said I could do anything. And, you know, that seems kind of like an obvious one, but it really mattered, you know, like even just her saying, like, if you put in the effort and if you work hard for it, there's nothing that you can't do. And I think that it seems like that's something that's so simple that, of course, you could do it, but just being told that, and being told that repeatedly, I think makes a big difference. And, you know, knowing that if you do believe in yourself, that you're going to have to put in the work for it, because no one's just going to hand it to you. And knowing that you need to go out and no one's going to take care of your career the way that you're going to. So it's important to find those mentors, find those sponsors that are willing to have coffee with you, to talk about things, to talk about their experience. Like with Brandy saying that, you know, people just talking about her experience and where she is, that matters so much when you're coming in new into your career, of just trying to figure out what potentially your path could look like, because no one's 2 paths are the same. But to be able to hear from people and see, I want to be where you're at and how did you get there, it's really eye-opening of what could happen with that. And, you know, across of growing through all of my career, I've found mentors that are outside of my department, just because I wanted to focus mainly a lot on women. And being at ESPN in a male dominated area, I'm fortunate that I have mentors that are male and female, but it was important for me to be able to find people that could relate to me, of the experience of just being in a male dominated area. You know, what if I want to have children, what does that look like? How does your job change? Because those are just some unique things that you can't have those conversations with males, because let's face it, it's completely different for when they decide to do any big life changes. So I think, it just going back to mom, just instilling that I could do it if I put in the work, and really trusting that and running with it.
if someone's looking to you, and they see associate producer, ESPN next to your name, is there, I'm not seeking like specific advice on the technology or what's needed, to be successful in that way, but a piece of wisdom that like, this is what will be helpful to get you to this level that I'm at right now in producing documentaries for such a high profile sports network?
Yeah, patience and doing the things that people don't want to do. I've been with ESPN for 8.5 years now, but I haven't been doing what I love for 8.5 years. I had to put in the time and, learn the things that you have to go through in order to get to where you want to go, and making sure that's what I wanted to do. A piece of advice I got early on in my career was treat your first 2 years at your first career like a master's program. Learn everything that you can. Don't say no to anything. Don't close the door on anything, because you may think that you want to do writing for the magazine, but then you find out that you actually love social media, and that wasn't even anything on your radar. But with 2021, social media is everywhere. Just being open to doing things, having a positive attitude, because that's one thing that I've learned is, people will work with you if you are engaging and you're excited about your job, and you need to tackle things that are mundane with the same amount of excitement that you would your dream job and your dream passion, because there's going to be little things that you don't want to do, but that's part of the job. And it's not going to always be sunshine and rainbows, but you just gotta, keep that good attitude and never stop learning. The second that you stop learning is when it kind of all goes down. And I think just, being open to opportunities that you would have never thought would be there, and learning more about things that you never thought you'd care about.
I'm going to pose this question and have everyone in the group answer this one. Today is about women empowerment and the inclusivity of all women from every different background and different industries, on the field, off the field. But it hasn't always been that way, right? It hasn't always been the camaraderie and the women supporting women. But how do we continue that? How do we continue to uplift women and champion them, and know just because there's one, it doesn't mean there can't be two, right? There are multiple men in these positions, but it's often that one woman has the leading role. So how do we as a group, continue to uplift each other forward?
I think
it goes back to paying it forward and continuing to lead the next generation, like to even go further than where we have come. I think it starts with us, and that same principle, and lifting each other up. Jenna's success, Kayla's success, Robin, your success, it doesn't impact my success. It helps us all be successful, right? It helps all voices be heard. And if we can't support each other, then this whole movement stops, right?
I think it's so important to tell our stories. If one person has the gold and they keep it to themselves, well, then how do we know that there's even gold to strive for? Showing that we can all shine in different ways will give us each the strength to persevere in those moments.
Mm-hmm.
I think also, vulnerability sometimes has a negative stereotype with it. I think it's a strength. I think if you can be honest and true about who you are and where you want to go, and you find those people that you can trust with your story and your true self, then I think we could take over the world. There's nothing that's stopping us if we know what we want to do, if we know what we're passionate about, if we're honest with ourselves, and almost allowing ourselves to do that, and not think, oh, there's already one woman there, that check mark is done. Like, no. Like, those check marks are not going to be done until it's 50-50 or a little bit more. So, I think it's important that we are, honest with ourselves and trust ourselves. And, like, we're here for a reason. This isn't by accident. We're here where we're supposed to be for a reason. And you got to just trust yourself that it's going to all work out. It may not be on the time that you want it to be, but, trust that it will if you continue to put in the work.
I often say the term hype queen, and I say this, to Connecticut's PR specialist Annette a lot of the time, that like, let me be your hype queen. Like, let me, give you those words of affirmation so that if I'm uplifting you, our entire organization, as a whole is then rising. So for anyone who, works for the Sun or who works in, the sports industry, like it's a tweet like, that video was awesome. You may work on an opposing team, but you took the time to edit something and put, a great piece of content out in the world. Like, I'm not on the hardwood battling you. Like, I want to share my sentiments and say, that was a damn good video. You should be so proud of that. And so I think like I get the joy back in return too, being able to be another woman's hype queen and, hype her up along the way.
And even doing that almost gives people the permission that that's okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because technically it's, ooh, it's the Sun and you're like something the Mystics did or the Aces did. Are you allowed to do that? Mm-hmm. Yes, why not?
Yeah, no, exactly. I was given some questions submitted from some of the participants today that were sent to us when they registered and signed up. So if you guys are comfortable, I will share some of them with you and how you would like to answer them, and I'll direct them to you in general again. So Julia H., this question came from you. So thank you for kicking us off and allowing us to start with your question. Brandy, I'm going to direct this one to you. And Julia asked, all my life I have played and watched sports, mostly basketball. And now I want to take what I have learned into an internship or career in that field. How do you recommend getting started and actually figuring out which field is best for you?
That's a great question, Julia. And I kind of have a unique story in that regard and how I got into the sports field. And first of all, I'm going to say this to all you young people out there: do not listen to the naysayers. Do not listen to the people that try to bring you down, because I can't tell you how many people told me that I would never coach the Division I level because I played Division III. And that's just silly, because there's a lot of really great players that didn't make good coaches. And then there's a lot of great coaches out there that either didn't play or played at lower levels. So if I had listened to those people, I would never be where I am today, coaching at the highest level. So just don't listen to the negative people that are in your ear. And then you've got to be brave. You've got to take chances. When I decided that the medical field was not going to be the direction I wanted my life to go out of college, I don't know if you guys remember this, but before the WNBA started, I'm going to show my age a little bit here. There was a women's professional league called the ABL, the American Basketball League. Okay. They started a year or two before the WNBA, and they were incredible. And I literally sat down and emailed every single team in the ABL, like looking for advice, looking to get my foot in the door, looking for anything. One team responded to me, the Colorado Explosion. They were out of Denver, Colorado. And they offered me an internship. They had 12 college students that they brought out to Denver, unpaid. And they were going to hire 3 of us full time. So of course I told my parents, yep, at the end of this, like 4 weeks, I have a full-time job. And I just crossed my fingers that I was going to get one of those jobs. And so I rolled a U-Haul out to Colorado. I slept on my best friend's couch, who was in law school at the time. And I got this internship and it was more on the business side of things. But they opened the door for me, and I got to learn about corporate sponsorships, marketing, ticket sales, the whole like front office aspect behind professional sports. Now, on the side, I started coaching a 7th and 8th grade girls basketball team. That's, again, don't close doors. Don't say no to opportunities when you're young, right? Like what Jenna was saying. I started coaching the 7th and 8th grade girls team on the side while I was out in Denver, and absolutely fell in love. I fell in love with those 7th and 8th grade girls. I still keep in touch with some of them to this day. One just had her second baby, and they changed my world, because until just taking that on for fun, I never knew how passionate I could be about coaching and how much of an impact I could have on these young girls' lives. And then from there on, again, be brave. Coach Miller, when he first got hired at Bowling Green State University, his first head coaching job, no lie, I showed up on his doorstep. And he'll tell you the story. I showed up on his doorstep and said, I am young, I am dumb, but I will work my booty off for you. And I did. And I was loyal, and, you know, and I worked very hard. And the last thing I'll say about that, as you're trying to get your foot in the door and your work ethic is such a big part of it, I'm going to say this, and it's a little bit of a cliche, but be where your feet are. Be where your feet are, because it's so important. I see so many young people today that are in a job and get an opportunity and already looking to move up the ladder and already looking to advance. And then they don't do the best job that they can in the position that they are. And I think that's really, really important. So sorry, I rambled on a bit there, but you've got to be brave. You've got to just reach out to people, and somebody will connect. Somebody will pay it forward and reach out to you and open a door for you. I promise you.
You can continue to ramble, Brandy. That was a great story. And I feel like I'm going to continue on your sentiments, because someone sent this question in for me that said, what advice would you have for a college student who is interested in working for the WNBA? That's a good question. There are only 12 teams that exist, right? And, there are multiple in the NFL and NBA and NBA. So it's a smaller pool, but because it's a smaller pool, it's a smaller community. And so we are aware of those who are, reaching out to us and inquiring and connecting with us via different social media channels. I may not check my, direct messages every single day, but, I do see if someone's reaching out to me or sending me the email. So if you are a college student, interested in working in this league, it's just about connecting, reaching out, as Brandy is saying. She showed up on, Kurt Miller's front doorsteps, and look at her, however many years, I'm not going to say the number, Brandy, later, that you're still working, alongside of him. But the people in our league are so respective, and they're responsive, and they want to grow this league. So they want to connect with you in return. I get a lot of emails today about younger women asking if we have internships available, because they know that I was an intern too. And now that internship became a real job. And of course, right now in the pandemic and everything, it's been hard to give them a solid answer, but I respond to every email I get. So just knowing that I do in one organization, I know all of my colleagues and counterparts are going to do the same. So it's that bravery that I think you talk about, Brandy. It's taking that leap. And if no one responds, no one responds. Okay, it was a no. You put yourself out there, and you're only going to grow and learn from that, but someone will respond one day. And that's just that one.
Robin, I don't know if you would face this. Do you get a lot? We have an internship too on the coaching side. We hire an intern every year. And the amount of male resumes that we get sent and males reaching out to us literally triples the number of female applicants that we have. And I don't know why that is. And it frustrates me. Like, girls, reach out. Do not be afraid. I don't know if it's just the guys aren't as afraid to put themselves out there or what that is, but I don't like that. Like, I want women putting their resumes into that pile. I don't know why it is that the guys reach out to us at like triple the number that the women applicants do. I don't know if you see that on your side of things, or Jenna, ESPN, or it's mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, I think it's kind of innate in women to always want to make sure that, like, if we're going to do the job, we're going to make sure we're qualified times 10. Whereas I think males are a little bit more comfortable with, like, oh, look at a job requirement and the 10 requirements, like, we have 2 of them. That's fine. Because I even see it a lot at ESPN, where I find myself in meetings and like story ideas where we're just talking about whether it be the NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, WNBA, NBA. I'm overcompensating with trying to prove my sports knowledge when I don't need to. But I'm just so, it's ingrained in us, of like, not a lot of women here. This is male dominated. And you just it's a bad habit that we all, I think, need to unlearn, that like we deserve to be where we are. We deserve to put in our resume for an internship in coaching or what have you. But we're so used to, I think, overcompensating that we close the door before we even get a chance to even look what's inside. And that's, I think we just all need to stop that.
You're right. Exactly.
I'm thirding. I was going to say seconding, but I'm thirding. what Brandy said. Kayla, this question is for you from Tracy E. And she said, what has been your biggest accomplishment that you are most proud of?
My biggest accomplishment is yet to be completed. It is in progress. I am in school to study a master's degree in organizational leadership. And I finish in August of this year. And the reason I'm particularly proud of this is because, just as Jenna was saying, typically women, we don't put ourselves forward in things that we think we're qualified in. And before I started this program, I had convinced myself that school wasn't for me. Even though I had been to college and already had a degree, I convinced myself that's as high a ceiling as I can go. That was just, I set my own bar. And I stepped outside my comfort zone in something that I was interested in, but wasn't sure if I was the right person to apply those skills or if I was worthy of pursuing something that seems so far outside of my field. Mm-hmm. And this has been a program that I've very much enjoyed. I believe that it is something that I think I'll be able to use not only professionally, but personally as well, in just believing in my own abilities and skills and being able to apply them technically with applicable skills, which I think is awesome. So I'm not in it yet, but my biggest accomplishment is in progress.
Exciting. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
This question is for Jenna, and it came from a Sherry G. Do you have advice for young women who want to work in sports but are not athletes in terms of breaking into a job in sports?
Yeah, you can do it. I think sports is the most purest form of reality television, right? Like you never know what's going to happen. You have all these characters and depending on the night, they're the villain or the hero. And, at the end of the day, though, they're all just people. They're all just like us. They wake up in the same way that we do. They have the same fear. They have the same family members and what have you. And I think it's just kind of taking a step back and remembering that, we're all humans and we all kind of have the same issues and stuff. And yes, they are very talented and their talent is on a grand scheme for everyone to see. But at the end of the day, it's not scary. They just want to be treated like normal people. And I think, you don't have to be an athlete to be able to get into sports at all. I think you need to be a person that has compassion for human beings, someone that's confident in yourself and your goals and what you want to do. And in a way, being a people person helps too, because that's all that you're going to be dealing with the entire time. So I guess the advice would be is don't think that holds you back or that you're not qualified. You're drawn to sports for a certain reason and continue with that. It doesn't make you less qualified for anything.
Jenna, I've seen some of the people that sit around your table and sit around talking sports and running their mouth. And I know they did not play sports on the men's side. Like, we all know this.
Oh yeah, those are always fun conversations.
Well, Brandy, it's fitting that the next question is for you because it may kind of hint along those lines. This is from Jennifer C., but it says, how is women's representation in male-dominated sports leagues such as the NBA and NFL being increased? So, when you see the female coaches that are getting, these new positions in leagues like the NFL, what resonates with you about that?
It's funny. I think this is a really good question, but I think it's as excited as I am when I see people like Becky Hammon and these coaches, these women that are now on the NFL sidelines, and you had the two women officials on their first game together in the NBA. Like, I am equal part excited that this is happening for women, but I'm equal part disappointed that it is 2020 and we have so many firsts for women. Like, that is ridiculous. You know, I just think we have to continue to know our worth, and we've got to continue to put ourselves out there. And I don't want these firsts being celebrated all the time. I want this to be a norm, because we have a voice that I think is something special and brings something unique to the sideline, to the film room, to the, you know, to the production room, to whatever that may be. And so I hope that this continues to grow, but I think we're late. I think we're late to the party on having women in these positions.
This is for Kayla. This was submitted by Lindsay D, and it says, how do we work to continue to shift away from the myths that our individuals are less interested in viewing women's events, women in sports or women in dance?
That's great. When I think about it, my first instinct is to gather our own crew, our own squad, our own group of people, and as many as we can, and support from within. So whether that be sharing your friends' events on social media, sharing on your own page, word of mouth, buying your friends tickets to go see a show. I think that it would help to walk the walk and to try and be the change as much as possible, because eventually others will start to take notice and notice how cool it is to support women in sports, women in dance, women in entertainment, and women fields in general. So definitely look for your nearest friend who is having a virtual show, have all your friends sign up and try to support.
This question is for me, but after I answer, I think you guys will also be able to share your thoughts here. But this was from Cheryl M, and she said when she was in middle school, she was fortunate to have weekly pickup games at the school with other volunteer coaches. And she's so happy to be able to watch women's basketball and soccer games now. What do you see as the next steps that need to happen to provide equity? And to me, when I think of like equity in women in sports, I think the top two things are exposure and investment. You need to expose people to these female athletes and what they are capable of and the skills and the assets that they bring to whatever sport they're playing. I think that showcasing them on television, on networks, on social media, so that it's just the viewership. When you have an eyeball on something, you know, like you can see it, but if you never see it, then you have no knowledge about this. And then the investment, I think it's so important. Like at the end of the day, you know, money matters in our growth, but it's the time of your investment aside from just the monetary, you know, but buy female leagues, their merchandise, you know, look at the players in the league and their own brands and invest in them. Because if you're investing in the players, you're investing in the league as a whole, and we're growing it. And I think this past summer, being able to have so many eyes on us, you know, while we were in the bubble and ESPN broadcasting so many games, I'm sure the viewership and the fans that we were able to bring in was tenfold from what it would have been if we weren't in a bubble. But to me, you know, for equity in sports, it's the exposure and its investment. Does anyone agree or want to chime in?
Yeah, I think.
No, you're exactly right, Robin. That's exactly what it is. And I've had so many friends that are even non-sports people that have come to Mohegan and bought tickets to a game and come to a Connecticut Sun game that never would have done that if I weren't coaching. And they freaking loved it. You know, they were like, I had no idea. I had no idea how great at basketball it was. I had no idea how incredible these women are. And so again, it's just the exposure and getting eyes on our product, whatever that might be. yeah, it really changes things.
Sponsorships are huge.
Yeah.
And, the companies need to back women's sports. It's a little like late to the party and, but it's time, like it's rather you come now versus never coming at all. And I think that's starting to be a trend with some things, even like how women are portrayed through their storytelling. Like I came from majority NFL pieces, and then I, almost fell into I was the only female on a team of 8 men, and there was a women's college basketball piece, and they're like, who should do it? You should do it, Jenna. But it ended up being the biggest blessing for me because I took all my knowledge of how we portray the men on ESPN and I took that and portrayed the women the same way, because there's no need to not show and shoot the women the way that we shoot men and portray them as being the top athletes in their sport. They're fit, the way that they hold themselves. I'm not here to show this meek side of women. I'm here to show how baller these women are. And so, and all of my representation, that's going to be there. So very excited for that.
I did get this question from 9-year-old Mia. So I even have her age that was listed here. So I feel inclined that would like to include, Mia's question in here, as I know we'll begin to wrap up soon. But Mia has this for all of us. And she said, what sport did you love the most growing up and why?
I think for me, it was baseball. It was an easy thing that kind of anyone could play, and you could kind of make up the rules with yourself, depending if the neighborhood kids were allowed to play or it was just like you and my siblings. And that was also just the way that my family bonded. Mom and dad could kind of still participate in that safely. And if it was either playing or going to a game, it was always just, that was a core family time that we knew it was going to be a good time, regardless of what happened on the actual game itself. But it was, baseball was just always an easy thing.
For me, basketball always felt most accessible. As long as I could dribble a ball, throw it in the air and hope it makes it, I feel like I can be included. Especially the fact that my dad coached my basketball team when I was younger. So I think that memory combined is my favorite.
Mine obviously was basketball as well, but I wasn't one of these kids that started dribbling at age 3. I actually started in t-ball and baseball and softball, and my family would spend all summers and on the evenings at the baseball fields growing up. And so that's where I got my start. And I didn't even pick up a basketball till I was a 6th grader, and obviously fell in love with the game. But I too started in baseball and softball, and I love softball. I played that all through high school as well.
Mm-hmm. Mine's going to be baseball too. That was the first sport I was introduced to. But I think what I loved most about it growing up, well, one, I also didn't know, I just assumed you could play with the boys no matter what. So, that just always seemed natural to me. So I never thought anything else from it. But I think because it was a family event. And so being able, like you said, to be coached by my dad, Kayla, was really, significant to me. And then my mom in the stands being, the number one cheerleader. Oh, the team snack mom. Debbie could provide some mean snacks. Just want everyone to know. So just having that family aspect, I think, involved in sports is what, initiated my love for it. But this question is not listed here, and it just kind of came to me. And so I would like to pose it to the group, as the last and final one. But we talk about how this one day is celebrated nationally once a year. But if I wanted to ask you to do one thing every day, whether that was having a conversation with another woman or sending out words of encouragement, via social media, or doing something that was helping a younger generation, what do you think is, one thing that you want to do going forward that will continue to empower young girls and young women looking to get into this sports all-encompassing industry?
Good one.
I'll answer too. I can go first. I think for me, since a lot of my job is involved in social media too, and connecting with our fans and putting out different types of creative content, I want to continue to see my counterparts around the league succeed as well, because I know that it's growing the WNBA as a whole. So I want to continue to be a bigger avid hype queen, for those, around me, and just uplifting them. And I think it's so simple to send encouraging words, because that increases their belief in themselves. So I think just the simple words of affirmation is what I want to continue to do and do more of for other women in the industry.
I think even, yeah.
I think that's great, Robin.
Thanks, Coach.
No, go ahead.
Even as something as small as just amplifying what somebody posts on social media, reposting their items, because eventually your friends are going to click on it and be like, you keep posting some of these things, I should take a look at it, and just trying to get more eyeballs on it, because then it goes back again to visibility, representation, and to your point, knowing that we all are on the same team, like regardless of what it is, we're all on the same team and we're all wanting to be successful in sports. So how can we all try to do that together? And then people will take notice of that, and we'll see it, and we'll see that you're kind of putting your money where your mouth is, of trying to want to amplify women and sports or women's voices around you.
I like that.
I do too. And I think for me, Robin, it's just continuing to be an ear to the younger people coming up, and a mentor to them. And listen, like I've talked to a few of my former players over the last week, and they're trying to navigate and figure out life post sport. And for all of us that grew up in sports, we all know that this is a huge transition. I obviously didn't handle the transition well and transitioned right back into coaching. But after you've been an athlete your whole life and you're not doing what you're doing, what does your life look like? And I've had this conversation a couple of times over the past week with younger people, and just being an ear to listen and navigate and give any sort of advice positively and lift them up to guide them, to what their path may look like, I think is really important.
I think amplifying your own passions is something that really resonates with me. As we were kind of talking about before, we tend to hold ourselves back sometimes and not think that we're worthy of pursuing our passions. So whether that be dancing alone in your room and holding up a video in the corner just to capture the moment, whether that's going for a run and having a little camera up just to take a moment to capture that, or taking a couple of shots of the basketball and taking a moment to really enjoy that. But really fostering the passion for whatever it is that you do, it's something that should be cherished. You would never want to do what you love to do and not feel the love. So just remembering that you have to take a little time with your passion, your field, and you, and just finding yourself in that.
I'm snapping off to that. Guys, thank you so much, for sitting and discussing tonight. I think as much as Zoom fatigue has hit in with a lot of people, it is also, at the end of the day, such an incredible technology avenue for us to connect virtually like this when we're in different states and different areas. And I thank everyone also who submitted all of their questions as well. If you guys had anything you wanted to say as a thank you or whatnot, I'd love to open the floor as well. And then we can wrap up.
I just very much enjoyed being able to share with all of you wonderful ladies and with everyone who is watching today, and definitely hearing the other stories. These are topics that I don't really get to discuss, I don't think maybe ever. So on a day like today, it's just especially important.
Yeah, there's this, I'm energized, right?
Yeah.
Like there's still so much to do, but there's still so much to be proud of what we're doing. And then, these conversations are great. And, it reminds you that you're not alone, like we all are on these different paths, but there are some similarities. And then we can kind of tap into our network as a resource for strength, for an ear, for guidance. Whatever we need from it, there's something to take away from it. And, this has just energized me even more to continue on this path and to never stop being hungry for what I want to do.
I agree. And I think going back to what Robin was joking about earlier about being someone's hype queen, I think we all have our tribe and we have our people that we trust that pump us up on a daily basis, because it's so easy, especially with social media today, to see other people's paths and other people's perfect lives. And we all know that that's not real life, what we see. But it's so hard. It's so easy for the negative thoughts to just keep revolving in our heads. And we've got to turn the volume down on those and turn the volume up on.
Oh no.
Turn the volume up way high.
Yeah. Brandy, it froze. Maybe that's our key. That's our clue. Zoom is like, you guys, this has been a great discussion, but we're cutting you off. I'll give it 10 more seconds.
Oh no. We made it very long. I'm very impressed that was the first hiccup.
Yeah. Otherwise, we'll end on the volume will continue to turn up and we will proceed, recognizing this day every day going forward.
Yes, and bet on women.
Bet on women. Bet on women. All right. Thank you both. And thank you everyone else who joined us tonight. We really appreciate it. And I hope this becomes an annual event and it continues to grow and our panelists grow. And so do the people who got to watch tonight. I'm going to sign off. But thank you both.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.